What's your reaction about what came through? I mean, it was multiple waves of it yesterday.
Yeah, and a lot of folks are saying, like, how come the sirens didn't go off? And that's, I mean,
I think that's
reasonable
something
question.
we need to address. Yeah, why didn't they go off?
Yeah, so, I mean, the simple answer is there wasn't a tornado warning. And then that, of course, brings the question, well, why was there no tornado warning? So it's a complicated situation as far as that's concerned. And first things first, Weather Service is going to be coming up with a game plan sometime this morning at the earliest on their storm survey plans to see where all they need to go, things like that. And they cover a big area, eastern Indiana, central and southwestern Ohio, and there are numerous areas that they may want to take a look at. So we may not have answers today or even tomorrow as far as, was there a tornado? Were there multiple tornadoes? Based on some of the data that I'm looking at with the benefit of hindsight, I would not be at all surprised if we end up with a couple of short-lived tornadoes from yesterday. That said, this is by no means me like criticizing the Weather Service, because they had a very difficult job yesterday, and it wasn't even until now, again with, as I said, the benefit of hindsight, to look back and say there's a couple of spots of rotation that seem to match up with it, but we're talking about a situation with the radar, which is in Wilmington, that the radar beam is 3,000 plus feet off the ground when it's over Columbus. Mm-hmm. And the type of storm that we had yesterday is a line of storms. And if you get a tornado on a line of storms, it typically is very shallow and very short-lived. And with a radar beam that's 3,000 feet above the ground and is fairly spread out by the time it gets here, those are going to be really, really, really hard to pick out in real time. So I certainly credit them for reacting very quickly when we got some of those higher wind gusts to bump up the severe thunderstorm warning information to say 70, 80 mile an hour winds. And unfortunately, there's another airport radar east of CMH that normally we can use that gives us data that's maybe 300-400 feet off the ground. It's offline right now. I asked them, hey, do we have any information on this? And that's maintained by the FAA. And they said they don't have any further information on when it'll be back up. And that probably would have benefited us a lot yesterday, because we would have had much better resolution data on how the winds were acting within the storm, and maybe could have picked out if there was some rotation. But that's speculation. But based on my experience, I wouldn't be surprised if we would have had more knowledge about what was going on within the storms, and maybe it would have prompted a couple of tornado warnings.
And, I mean, you and I have worked all over the Midwest, and we know that we might end up through this survey and they might just say this was a really strong thunderstorm, mm-hmm. because we've seen what happens elsewhere, that we can see this kind of damage from non-tornadic storms.
Oh, absolutely.
Right, just high winds.
And the vast majority of the damage will end up being straight line winds. Some of those very localized pockets may end up being a brief tornado. But at the end of the day, I mean, you always want to know, but at the end of the day, damage is damage. Mm-hmm. And it really doesn't matter. And I don't want to dismiss people, saying, oh, well, was it a tornado? Was it not? But at the end of the day, if you have damage, you have damage. And it just is a big challenge to get through, documenting every single thing and wrangling with insurance and fighting off the places that come through and sweep in behind. It's just like, oh my gosh, it's just frustrating.
It's fair to say, too, we don't say it's a tornado until the National Weather Service does their surveying.
Exactly.
So that's why we say strong storm, strong winds, because there's just not that that decision made yet for what they're going to call it.
Yeah,
so
there was a warning out for this storm as a severe thunderstorm warning.
For sure. And it seems like it was a situation that things ramped up pretty quickly, because looking at the measured wind reports, and we had a handful of reports coming into the metro from various weather stations that were 40, 50 miles per hour. And then all of a sudden, OSU Airport gusted into the 60s, and then CMH had the gust of 82. It wasn't until it got into the metro that we were actually getting information that's saying, oh, this thing is ramping up in intensity. And it seems like it may have strengthened as it was coming into our area, which, of course, when that happens, it's just bad luck as far as not being able to give that extra heads up, because it just pulsed up in intensity at the worst time.